even though it was manufactured in its original, it can still lose its efficacy when it's been stolen and being given to the patient. So there are different aspects of security, and one should just give a holistic look to it. Now, I'm just quoting this article and a snippet from a New York Times, which came in August 2011. Now, US is one of the biggest markets in the pharmaceutical global market, and it accounts for around close to 45 to 50% of the market. So if we are talking about a $750 billion pharma industry worldwide, we are talking about a close to around $300 billion pharma industry in US. And India has got very high stakes in that market because we are one of the biggest exporters, and in fact this shows that 80% of the active pharmaceutical ingredients and 40% of finished drugs in US are imported, and most of the suppliers are coming from India and China. India has got the largest number of US FDA approved plants outside of US. So we are becoming a very, very big player in exporting pharmaceuticals and related products. Now, when such a thing happens, we are making our supply chains more complex, because earlier it used to be very simple. I mean, at least geographically, we were supplying the goods within the boundaries of one country, so the scope of our supervision was lesser. But when we are sending products, say we are sourcing a raw material from China, making the product in India, shipping it to say US or Europe, and from there it again goes to the different wholesalers and retailers. We are talking about lots of people being involved in the whole supply chain, and if you need to have an effective system of security to ensure that the integrity is not compromised at any of those players. So as I talked about, there are various players, and we need to have different people to be aligned and involved in our strategy, and especially the law enforcement authorities are keeping a very, very strong eye on what kind of solutions and systems you are having to ensure that it's not getting compromised. Now, the traditional way of tackling security is, of course, to have world-class devices on your at your warehouses, at your logistics vehicles, to ensure that there is no theft or anything getting done. Now, that of course is a part of our strategy, and pharmaceutical industry is also in a big way globally adopting the TAPA standards, which my colleague earlier spoke about. So we are also trying to get into that to ensure that we minimize the losses at the warehouse level and at the transportation level. Things are happening. So what we then thought of was that let's secure the entire supply chain. Can we do it in an effective manner that it in a way proves that whoever is wanting to steal the products, a pharmaceutical product, it doesn't become lucrative for them. It in a way prohibits them from doing that. Now, that's a system and which globally all regulators, pharma companies have been thinking about, and now a broad consensus is emerging, and close to around 10-12 countries are talking about a technology where they are saying that we are not only going to increase the visibility of the entire supply chain, but we are going to also put tools and practices in place to ensure that right from the product when it leaves the raw material manufacturer till the time it leaves the chemist and it goes to the patient, we are going to have an effective tracking mechanism. Now, that's an extremely challenging thing, and I'll talk about it in my subsequent slides. But besides that, we are also going in for traditional things like improving the packaging solutions to make sure that the security is not compromised, taking effective measures in the logistics solution, ensuring that only the relevant players are playing in the whole supply chain. Unauthorized people, we want to develop a system that they are rooted out of the system. And we want to work with the regulators to increase the penalties and improve the cooperation amongst different countries. There's a lot of cooperation happening between customs of many countries to prevent and authenticate that only the right medicines are coming in and going out of the country. Now, let me come to the technology that I was talking about, and let me just briefly touch upon these things. We are first of all talking about serialization. Serialization, we are saying that every unit of medicine, we are going to put a unique number it's like the ambitious unique identification project of Mr. Nandan Nilikeni. He is wanting to give a unique identification to individuals. We are wanting to give a unique identification to each unit of pharmaceutical which is being manufactured across the globe. Authentication. We are saying that once you have a unique identification, any patient or any stakeholder should be able to get an authentication done, whether it's genuine or not. Pedigree. Pedigree is a system of having an end-to-end supply chain wherein it cannot move to the next node without having a proper pedigree. I'll talk about it in detail later. And track and trace. That's a very loose term which is used in different connotations, but in very simple terms, it basically talks about where the product is right now and where has the product been. So if I want to track where all it has been, so I trace it to its origins and try and see where exactly the product has been going. Let me get the whole slide. Now, the whole serialization concept I've been given an ultimatum, so I've been told that I should cut short my presentation. I got the message. So let me just take 2 minutes extra and try and close it out in the next 2 minutes. The whole serialization, as I talked about, it works in conjunction with the barcodes. And the barcodes try and give a unique identification which is printed on the individual units of the medicines, so that we get a unique identity of that. And what happens is that there's a concept of aggregation. So each unit, when it gets into a carton and when the carton gets into a pallet, there is a correlation between the unique identification of the unit to the unique identification of the pallet. So we know that whenever a pallet is being tracked, what medicines are contained in the exact carton and the units which are contained there. Authentication. Now, this technology is even available in India. Now, if you have a medicine and if you have a unique identification, you can actually SMS that number to the service provider or the pharmaceutical manufacturer, and they can actually confirm to you whether it's a genuine product or not. So you have a way of trying to say that this is a genuine product and this is not. Pedigree. I was talking about this, and this has been a concept which has been introduced in US, going to be effective in 2015, wherein if a product goes from a manufacturer to a wholesaler or a wholesaler to a retailer, it has to be accompanied by a compulsory electronic document. Without that, the transaction cannot be completed. And these are generally stored and in a repository where it makes it more foolproof to ensure that only the right players in the supply chain are playing in that supply chain. Track and trace. It's basically again linked to the previous e-pedigree. Once you have a proper tracking, then it's all integrated into a common database, and using that common database, then everyone can track and trace and see where the product is and what has been the origin of the product. In the Indian context, I'll just take one last minute to close my presentation. How is it relevant? The Director General of Foreign Trade, which is under the Ministry of Commerce, they had a big case in Nigeria, I think 1 year back or 1.5 years back, wherein a huge consignment of pharmaceuticals was found to be substandard, and the Nigerian government took it up very strongly with the Indian government. And finally, it was realized that actually the products originated from China, but India's name was being tarnished. That's when the Ministry of Commerce woke up and said that every pharmaceutical exports which is taking place in the future should have some sort of track and trace mechanism to ensure that only the genuine products are identified and no one is able to tarnish the name of India in the global market. So this is going to play a big role in helping it reach there. Second example just want to take, the government of India purchases medicines in a big way, and you'd be surprised that they have a lot of thefts happening within their own setup, and they were not able to prevent that. So they are now in an advanced stage of implementing serialization and track and trace in a way to prevent thefts in their facility. So these are some unique aspects which I just wanted to present to this August group. Thank you. I'm sorry if I have taken more time, but if you have questions, I can take it up later. Thank you so much.